Hi there, so I've just finished watching season 4 of Game of Thrones. However, I read the whole A Song of Ice and Fire book series first, and I noticed quite a lot of differences between the TV show and the book series. So if you couldn't guess, that's what this video is. We're going to talk about season 4 TV show versus book. There's quite a lot of differences that I've noticed, so I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave any differences that you noticed in the comments as well, just in case I miss any. I'm not going to go through every single tiny detail because we would be here all day, but here are some of the big major ones that I think we need to talk about. I'm also going to split this video into chapters, so if you've got a specific section that you want to hear me talk about, feel free to check out the timestamps in the description box so you know whereabouts that is in the video, basically. I just like to make things convenient for you. I try my best anyway. And just as a quick disclaimer, there will be spoilers for the A Song of Ice and Fire book series in this video, and there's also spoilers for Game of Thrones up to season 4. I can't spoil any of the later seasons because I have not yet watched them. But if you want to watch them with me, I do reactions on my channel every week, so check that out if you're interested. So just before we jump into the big baddie changes, there's a few slight scene changes and conversations that are not featured in the books that really stood out to me in the TV show that I thought were incredibly well written and were a very brilliant change from the books. The first one being the conversation between Tywin and Tommen when they're discussing what it takes to be a king. I think this is just after Joffrey has passed away, and they're having this really insightful conversation about what it takes to be a good king, and I just thought that it was so powerful, and it was based on past history, past law, past rulers, and I just thought it was incredibly well written and a really deep conversation between Tywin and Tommen. There's also a conversation between Tywin and Oberyn where they're talking about his sister Elya's death, and again I thought it was so powerful and it felt so true to the characters. It's obviously a conversation that does not take place in the books, but it feels like it could have been. I also realised that they've changed the origin of Ser Pounce. How could they do this? So Ser Pounce was initially a gift from Margaery to Tommen in the books, but they changed the origin of him because in the TV show, Margaery meets Ser Pounce. Like, Tommen already has him. How is this possible? He's like my favourite character and they've changed his origin story. I wonder why they did that. There's some changes where I genuinely don't know why they did it because it's so small. Like, it's such a small, minute detail. Why'd they change it? And the last thing I want to say before we get into the big bad boy changes is, where the heckin' bobs is Gendry? I've only just realised he was not in season 4 at all. I think last time we saw him, Davos pushed him onto a boat and he was rowing his boat gently across the sea. But where has he gone? That boy is going to be looking like Popeye by the time that we see him again because he's just been rowing for, I mean, at this point, over a year. Gendry, where you at? Okay, enough about those minor details. Let's get on into the big changes that I really want to talk about because they stood out to me the most. These are the changes that I think are the most impactful, in my humble opinion. First one being Jaime Lannister. I think that in season 4, they massively changed his character. He doesn't even feel like the same guy anymore, in the best possible way. So they've completely transformed his character, and what they've done is they've made his redemption arc more believable and they've made him more likable. So if you are a frequent viewer on my channel, then you may know I really did not like Jaime Lannister in the books at all. In fact, he might have even been one of my least favourite characters. I didn't fall for his redemption arc. He could not redeem himself. I just thought he was a terrible person, to be quite honest. In the TV show, my views are like basically the opposite. I am falling hard and deep into his redemption arc. That was an odd choice of wording, sorry about that. Because he just feels so likeable. Now, the reason for this is not just because he's a very attractive man. I'm not that shallow, okay? There are some pieces of evidence that I have picked up from in season 4 to establish my point. Here we go. Firstly, he's much more likeable because he's less ragey. He's less arrogant. I mean, he's still arrogant, but less so. And he's also less nasty and like angry and aggressive. So for example, in episode 1 there is a conversation between Tywin and Jaime regarding him staying in the Kingsguard, something along that lines. But what I noticed was that in the books this was quite a fiery conversation, like kind of driven by rage and anger, to the point where Jaime is like exploding in rage. They basically have a bit of a slanging match, and Tywin says something along the lines of, "You are no longer my son," or "You are no son of mine," something like that. They were both just being very rude to each other, and I feel like there was a conversation that had the same purpose, but it was delivered in a much calmer exchange of words. And I feel like by making Jaime feel more level-headed and not as ragey all the time, he's much more likable. Another part as well is when Jaime is receiving the sword, and in the books he's quite angry about it because he feels like it's a mockery of his mutilation, you know, his lost hand that's no longer attached to the body, his amputation. He feels like that's a mockery of it. Whereas in the TV show, he doesn't. He kind of just takes it in his stride, and he actually learns how to use his other hand in a much more mature way. That's it. They've made Jaime more mature. Another reason why Jaime is more likeable is because he's just nowhere near as nasty to Brienne as he is in the books. So in the books, he calls her stupid, he calls her names, he's very cocky and arrogant. Obviously, deep down, he cares for her, absolutely. But Jaime is the type of person who doesn't like to show any vulnerability or any vulnerable emotion. So in the books, it's almost like he feels like he has to act big and hard and nasty and mean in order to hide the fact that he cares. Whereas I feel like in the TV show, they've made it so that he cares more and it's obvious. And I just feel like Jaime's relationship with his brother Tyrion feels more vulnerable and more emotional in the TV show as well. Like Jaime offering to leave the Kingsguard and to marry in order to have Tyrion spared. It's things like that you just don't pick up on in the books. In my opinion, they've changed Jaime's character pretty much drastically, and that's why I've gone from hating him in the books to actually really liking him, possibly loving him in the TV show. Whoa! So we've spoken about Jaime, let's also talk about Brienne and Podrick. So obviously, one of the big themes that you'll find out as I talk about my points in this video is that they've changed the pacing massively. So to the point where Jaime and Brienne are not actually at Joffrey's wedding because they don't return to King's Landing until a lot later. That does affect other things as well. So there's quite a lot of scenes that they are present for in the TV show that they are not in the books, just because the timings and the pacings have been moved around. And one of the big changes as well is that when Brienne sets off from King's Landing to look for Sansa, Podrick is not actually with her at that point. He doesn't accompany her from the get-go. It's not until much later that Brienne finds out that Podrick has been following her, whereas in the TV show, she's basically given Podrick Payne as a gift. Ta-da! Here's your squire, off you go. She's not very happy about it, but obviously in the book she doesn't have him with her. And one of the big changes about Brienne and Podrick is encountering the Hound and Arya. Like, I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen in the books because I would have remembered that surely. And that massive showdown with the Hound and Brienne fighting, that was crazy. Now, when I saw that scene, I wondered if that was like a compilation of different fights that Brienne has along the way in the books, because there's definitely a lot of scenes that Brienne is involved with in her travels where there is a lot of fighty time and fisticuffs, but they're not in the TV show, or at least they're not in the TV show yet. I don't know if they are in like the next season. I'm not sure. They could be. But I wondered if her showdown with the Hound was like a compilation of different Brienne scenes in the books, and they just kind of morphed it into one with a more substantial character as well. Let's talk about the Eyrie, and in particular Sansa and Lysa as well. So there's big changes in terms of Lysa's death, and there's also big changes in terms of Sansa's character. So just quickly speaking about Sansa, the whole Ser Dontos and Sansa thing didn't really last very long at all. So in the books, that is like much bigger, like that lasts for longer. She's like frequently meeting up with Ser Dontos. They're talking about Jonquil, Florian, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of really emotional dialogue and that sense of hope from Sansa building up over numerous chapters, which I absolutely loved. Now, it is to my dismay that in the TV show, they basically cut all of that out. And we see Dontos for like one episode and then boom, he's gone. They cut out all of Ser Dontos and Sansa's shenanigans, and I was actually a little bit disappointed with that, because I feel like that should have been trickled into numerous episodes, just slightly, a little bit of Dantos here, a little bit of Dantos there, rather than just having one episode of him and then he's like, then dead. It just didn't sit well with me, because I enjoyed those parts from the books, and unfortunately they were not really included at all in the TV show, like very, very minutely. So talking about Lysa's death, that was very, very fast paced, very quick. Again, talking about cutting stuff out, they cut loads of stuff about Lysa's storyline. There's so much more that happens at the Eyrie before Lysa's death, yet it feels like Sansa arrives and then all of a sudden Lysa's dead. It just happened so fast, and again, I was a little bit disappointed that happened so quickly. I found it really juicy in the books, and it just didn't feel like it lasted long enough in the TV show, in my opinion. It just felt far too quick for me personally. They've also made some changes in particular to Lysa's death in the TV show, because there's this whole big thing about the singer Marillion. So he is actually there when Lysa dies, and then there's this whole plot around Littlefinger torturing him into confessing, so that obviously Sansa and Littlefinger can get away with it. So I wonder why they cut Marillion out, or did they just feel like it wasn't worth having a side character that they could use to show Littlefinger's brutality or the length that he would go to? I don't know, I thought that by Marillion being there, it added more depth to both Sansa, Littlefinger, and how manipulative people can be. But obviously he's just not there, so I wonder what their reason was for that change. So in terms of slight things that I've noticed about Sansa's character, so obviously in the books, Sweet Robin doesn't actually know that Sansa is Sansa, he just thinks that she's Elaine. I'm pretty sure he never actually learns about her true identity, correct me if I'm wrong. But in the TV show, he definitely knows that she is Sansa. Now there's a scene where they're building the snow castle, really cute, really whimsical. Sweet Robin's just your classic annoying child. But Sansa slaps him. Now in the books, she never slaps him. Yeah, sure, she threatens to. I'ma slap you if you don't shut up. Fair dues. But in the TV show, she full on slaps him. Now that's where I draw the line, okay? Threats are one thing. Threats are bad enough as it is. To actually act on your threat, nah, I draw the line. So they've made Sansa much more feisty, much more fierce, and a bit more immoral. Oh, another thing on that point as well is when they're talking to Lord Nestor Royce following Lysa's death. In the TV show, Sansa lies on Littlefinger's behalf to get them both in the clear. But in the books, she does not do that. That is Littlefinger. Okay, that feels like a very classic Littlefinger move. But for Sansa to do that, that just don't fit with her character arc. You know, she's just a very timid girl who's scared of getting in trouble. Whereas in the TV show, again, she's slapping people, she's lying to people, she's manipulating people. So they've changed Sansa's character a lot. Guys, we've got to talk about Tyrion. Okay, there's many big changes that I noticed for Tyrion. Where do I even start? So in terms of Tyrion's trial, again, they've shortened that a lot, so it lasts a lot longer in the books. However, I do think that was a good thing that they shortened it in the TV show, because it's added more emphasis onto that episode being Tyrion's trial. Whereas if they dragged it out for numerous episodes, it wouldn't have had the same effect. So obviously in the books, it lasts for numerous days. You know, some people's testimonies take a whole day in itself. It lasts for a long old while. Whereas in the TV show, obviously it's just one episode, it's just one day, I think. It's a lot shorter. That makes so much sense. I think that was a better change for a TV viewer point of view. TV viewer point of view. Words, what are they? How do you put together? So I feel like it was good that they shortened that, really. Another thing as well is that Cersei doesn't testify in the books. She gets the Kettle Black brothers to do it for her. So again, I thought that was interesting that they made her testify in the TV show. I think I kind of get why, like she's a main character. Whereas if they'd just added in these two side characters that we don't really know a whole lot about, I don't think it would have had the same emotional impact. Obviously, we've spoken before in previous comparison videos about Shay's character motives, and that still stands in season 4. So in the books, Shay is much more driven by like financial aid. Pretty sure Cersei bribes her to get her to trial. It's much more like she doesn't really care about Tyrion kind of thing. She's just doing it for money. Whereas in the TV show, Shay is clearly deeply, deeply passionate in terms of her revenge. She's driven by emotion, not finances. She She was so in love with Tyrion and he broke her heart into 1,000,000 tiny pieces. That's got to make someone filled with hatred. And Shae definitely is. She is driven by hatred in the trial. In my opinion, it looked like she wanted to get revenge hella hard. So her reasons for doing the trial have actually changed and her motives have changed and therefore her character has changed quite a lot. There's obviously some very small changes to the Red Viper and Mountain fight. However, I do think they kept that pretty close to the source material. And I think they adapted that fight extremely well. Like, it was such a good scene. Again, I'm pretty sure it lasts a bit longer in the books, but it's not like the biggest of chapters. It's more the case that they've made Oberyn Martell do all these little twizzles and show dances and performative things, which he doesn't really do in the books. He does taunt the Mountain, but it's not like to that full effect. So, one of the big things that we have got to talk about, which I didn't actually even know what to say about it when I reacted to the season 4 finale episode, because it kind of caught me off guard. So they've basically completely removed the Tysha reveal. Obviously Tyrion's first wife, Tysha. So Jaime confesses to Tyrion as he is freeing him that Tysha wasn't a whore after all. Can I say that word? Yeah, I'm sure you know what word I mean. And that Tywin made Jaime lie about it that entire time. And so Tyrion had this false belief of something that wasn't true. And it's shaped his entire life, basically. So he is obviously outraged at this, as you would be. He is completely devastated about this revelation. So him and Jaime in the books have a massive argument about that, which obviously is completely taken out of the TV show. That was not in the TV show at all. In fact, don't Jaime and Tyrion have a lovely brotherly embrace? But the main thing there, so like I said earlier, they've obviously strengthened Jaime and Tyrion's brotherly relationship in the TV show, but by not revealing this. So in the books, Tyrion's main motive for killing Tywin is because of that revelation. He's just realised that his dad's lied to him his entire life, forced his brother to lie to him, and that's his primary motive for killing Tywin. So they've completely removed one of Tyrion's main motives. And similarly, when Tyrion and Tywin are having their final conversation before Tyrion gets his revenge and does the most immoral act you could possibly do, in the books they're having a very similar conversation to what they do in the TV show, but they're referring to Tysha, not Shae. And the whole thing where Tywin's calling Shae a whore, and that prompts Tyrion to release his crossbow at him. In the books, it's all to do with Tysha. So by removing the Tysha revelation, they've basically removed a huge part of Tyrion's character. But I don't know why they've done that. So yeah, let me know what you think to that in the comments, if you know what I'm on about. So next up, let's talk about the North, because there's quite a few changes regarding the Night's Watch, Bran, all this kind of stuff. One of the first things I noticed was, the Tens or the Thens, whatever they're pronounced, they've made them out to be these big, massive, cannibalistic dudes. There was even scenes of them eating people in the TV show, but they're actually not like that in the books. They're actually kind of civilized. They have their own laws and stuff, don't they? But yeah, that just made me chuckle, because that's just something that they emphasised on a lot in the TV show. So obviously there's a lot of changes in terms of the mutineers. So obviously Bran's group never come across Craster's Keep in the books, therefore they're not captured, neither a Ghost or Summer. So that whole thing about Bran's squad being locked up at Craster's Keep, and yeah, that just doesn't happen. And also Locke, who I think is a parallel to Varga Hurt in the books, he's not at Castle Black, he's not in the Night's Watch, so they've completely changed where he is. So I just thought that was really interesting that they basically just made Bran's squad go on a bit of a detour for that part of the season. Also, Jurgen's death. That's a big one. Obviously, he is full on dead in the TV show, which is crazy. So obviously he doesn't die fighting against the Whites in the books. Yeah, pretty sure he's still alive in the books. I don't remember him dying. So that's actually a big change. That's actually massive. Why did they kill him off? He was a little cutie patootie. I liked him. Similarly, the whole Molestown thing. So Sam never sends Gilly to Molestown. She never meets Ygritte. That never happens. And in fact, at this point in the story, so again, going back to the pacing, Sam and Gilly are still off doing their own thing. Like, they're not even there at the massive fight at the end of the season in episode 9. They're not actually present for it, whereas Sam played a huge role in that episode. In my opinion, it was great that they made it so that Sam was there, because his character really shone through. That was Sam's episode. Whereas in the books, he's not actually even there. He's still off with Gilly doing their own thing somewhere. So yeah, just some changes that I've noticed. Another massive thing that changed in that big massive battle was around the members of the Night's Watch who died. So in the TV show, they made Pip and Gren die in that battle, which actually they don't in the books. They survive that battle. Now, I definitely think that the reason why they did that was to make it so that some main characters that we're connected to have been killed off, so that it hits a punch, like it really packs a punch harder. Obviously, we had the Ygritte death anyway, which was always going to be very emotional, but to also make some members of the Night's Watch that we're connected to die, it really does show the significance of that battle. So I kind of get why they did that. I ain't happy about it, but I get why they did it. So I was going to talk about Stannis for a bit, but to be honest, there's not that many changes in terms of Stannis. There is in Davos. Davos seems to be in completely different places to where he is in the books. So the whole thing about them trying to negotiate with the Iron Bank, again, the pacing's changed. That's been brought forward in the TV show. But Davos isn't even there. Like, Davos is initially not at that meeting with the Iron Bank. And he also doesn't march to Castle Black with Stannis' fleet. He is not with Stannis. So the only thing that they've really changed about Stannis' storyline is that Davos just seems to be stuck to him like a Siamese twin. Like, wherever Stannis is, Davos seems to be now. Whereas in the books, that's definitely not the case. Another change that I want to briefly talk about, but isn't really like a massive thing, is just the fact that Asha never actually goes to save Theon, or Yara, she's called in the TV show. She never actually goes to save Theon. And I also thought that that scene was actually very pointless. I didn't understand it, because it's like, she entered, she had a showdown, and then she got chased out by some dogs, and then she says, he's not my brother anymore. What was actually the point? What was the point in that scene? Could you tell me? Because I don't think it particularly added anything to the plot. I mean, the only thing that I benefited from it is that I got to see Ramsay Bolton shirtless. That's the only thing that benefited me about that scene. I suppose it does kind of show that Theon has gone completely insane because he doesn't trust his own sister to save him, kind of thing. He's completely dependent on Ramsay at this point. I suppose that's the only thing that you can benefit from that scene. And then there's also a few kind of minor changes, I guess, with Dany's storyline. I don't know, I didn't pick up on anything like massive that they've changed, I don't think. I suppose the main thing is about Jorah's secret of being like a spy and betraying Dany. That gets revealed a lot earlier in the books, I think, so they've kind of changed the pacing with that. But I felt like in the TV show it came at the right time, like it made sense for it. I think that even if they've changed the pacing on that, I don't think it was a bad thing. So they might have changed a few things in terms of what she decides to do. But in terms of her character, she's very similar, I think, to how she is in the books. Like, she still feels very, very Dany. Like, she feels true to her values. She feels like she has the same motives and values as she does in the books. So I think they've adapted her well, in my opinion. Long may that last. I really hope it does. So those are all the big main changes that I noticed. Like I said, there's so many more. Like, there's actually lots of really minor little things that they've changed, but if I went through them all, this video probably would be about 3 hours. But this is why it's brilliant that you have the ability to write a YouTube comment, because if you've noticed any changes that I didn't and you want to add to our little portfolio of changes on this video, please leave them in the comments. You know, create a list if you want. That would be really helpful. And also just let me know what your thoughts and opinions were on season 4. I must say, it was my favourite season out of all of them so far. I think it was brilliant. However, I can definitely see how it's deviating away from the books, and that scares me. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'm also going to be reacting to season 5 soon, so if you want to stick around for that, then please subscribe, because it's free and it means that you'll see my videos easier. I want to also give a humongous thank you to the members that are supporting my channel. It honestly means everything to me, and it's really appreciated. If you'd like your name featured at the end of each of my videos, or you'd like access to cool perks, then please check out the channel memberships. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. I will see you next time, or rather you'll see me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.